like boxing?
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Oh, fancy.
Cool.
Yeah, like I've been boxing all my life. I used to fight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't do that. Still for fun now.
Oh, okay.
You know, nothing helps more to get release stress than getting punched in the face. You know, well, I love the science of it.
Right.
It's fun.
He likes to punch walls, so he should probably box with you.
I need some way to get my anger out. That's
Go boxing, bro. You will get
Really?
all the anger out. Yeah.
Okay.
If not, they will get it down for you.
Oh, I'm sure I'll be humbled really quick. I've been punched in the face a few times, and it doesn't feel too good.
but for like 3 minutes and like consecutive.
Yeah.
Like
So so the first, I've been in school fights, only a couple of them.
Yeah.
But none of them compared to like whenever I was in the Marine Corps going through boot camp. There's
Bugle
one
sticks.
bugle sticks, and there's one event in the last part of boot camp that you go through. It's called the 12 Stalls. And like you have to hike through the mountains on Camp Pendleton. Well, not really mountains, but to hike through all the hills and go through all these stalls. And one of them is boxing. So you put your headgear, you put the
pads
put the
on
other
and gloves.
put the other gear on, and you're literally fighting another recruit for a couple minutes. It gets really tiring.
It gets extremely tiring.
Oh yeah, and plus we're already tired, sleep deprived. Sleeping like 2 hours a night. And it's a whole, it's like a 52-hour, ordeal.
Yeah.
So you're already tired. You have one MRE, per day. So you have to make it last all day.
Yeah.
On top of that, you don't have a lot of water either. Like you have like 2 canteens worth of water.
Did you have those nasty water buffaloes? Yeah, we had these nasty water buffaloes that they later found like all this algae and bacteria and chemical like cancerous stuff.
Wow.
That like
they called it potable water, but there's no telling what was in there.
No, we had no idea. No, it was bad.
Wow.
But yeah, so I have experienced it a little bit, not on the side of like, oh, I do this as a profession.
Yeah.
But it definitely put in perspective, like, okay, maybe I'm not as strong or, not as resilient as I thought I was in this area.
Yeah.
Like I could throw a few punches, but, in the end, it's like I couldn't even lift my hands up. And the gloves weren't even that heavy.
Yeah, no, 16 ounces or 14, depending which one you were wearing.
It was just like, it was the most like, it was like, man, I feel so defeated, but I did it,
Yeah. It's good. It's a good. What I love. Well, actually, guys, we started the podcast. Welcome to the with the boys podcast. We started already, so shout out to my editors. Please keep the podcast because this is a good conversation. So today I have 2 guests. So excuse me if I don't pronounce your last name. So I'm gonna ask you guys to help me with that. 100%. So I have Chelsea. They were in the same group. Latif, shout out. Right.
Yes, Latip, shout out. I have my little pin on because I got it this morning.
Hey.
There you go. Yeah.
That's a nice
Yeah.
pin.
Put it on.
And give me a little bit of your name. What do you do and all that? Just a little bit.
Yes. So my name's Chelsea Gray, and I'm a current brand ambassador for a local marketing agency. It's called Go Be Rewarded. And so I get to go out and talk to small business owners, and I get to help them with their marketing, and I'm also in part of the sales division there. So
nice. All right.
Cool.
And over here we have Chelsea's husband. All right.
Yes, Corey. So yeah, just a little bit about myself. I'm currently an auto detailer. I love doing it. It's kind of like a passion of mine. But I'm also Chelsea's husband, so I hold it down at home whenever I'm not working. But yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to have you guys. I'm excited for this. We were planning it for a while, but
Yep.
communication, sometimes stuff. Sometimes I forget to reply.
This way.
Yeah,
Life
it's
happens.
completely my fault. It's completely my fault. I just, I get some, you know what happens is like I get so many messages, and I have like different platforms for it, right? Like I'm Group Me and like Slack and WhatsApp and I don't know, and regular text messages,
Telegram.
emails,
Right. All the group
DMs,
chats. Yeah.
whatever you call the ones on Insta and TikTok. So yeah, man, it's a bunch, too many mediums of communications, and it's hard to keep up sometimes. Especially my Instagram has been blowing up lately. So yeah, Not like not yet. Like hopefully soon. Yeah, it's not looking to rain.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. No, guys. So no. But I'm happy to have you guys, and I'm pretty sure this conversation is gonna be very exciting.
Yes.
Getting back to what you were saying that you went. You guys were in the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you guys in the same camp or train?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not the same training. We went to two different. She trained in Paris Island. I was over here in San Diego.
Okay.
But I went to MCRD San Diego in August of 2016. I was with Mike Company in 3rd Battalion. I trained with the same platoon throughout boot camp through all 13 weeks. After I graduated, it was an interesting time because I graduated in November 19th, which was, just a week before Thanksgiving. So I got to go home on leave for Thanksgiving for a whole week, or I think it was like 7 or 9 days. After that, I reported to Camp Pendleton, to the School of Infantry, Marine Combat Training, MCT, and I went through what they call a super cycle. So instead of it being a full 30 days, I believe it's 30 days, I went through a 20-day training cycle because it was right between Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday. So I went through a 20-day training cycle, had no rest whatsoever every day, waking up like 4:30 in the morning, going out, doing all of our training, doing like live fire maneuvers, whatever, land nav, doing all all the way from the 10K to the 30K, whatever hikes, which were kind of excruciating if you weren't prepared for it. Yeah. And learning how to do, basic, infantry communication, radio comms and all that. I went through 20 days of a super cycle on that. Then whenever I graduated from Marine combat training, I then went back on leave to go home for Christmas. And then after Christmas, I flew out to Fort Lee, Virginia, where we trained to be parachute riggers.
Oh, nice.
And we trained with the Army. So that meant, basically being in the Army, but, just in a Marine Corps uniform.
Yeah,
they don't really care who you are. The instructors don't care who you are. They're just like, okay, well, you're going through this course. They treat you like
Air Force
like the
too.
same.
They treat you like junior personnel. It doesn't matter what your name
rank is,
says,
they don't care,
what your branch is. But yeah, it was interesting. It was fun, but it was also kind of a rough time for me because I got held back due to the death of my grandmother. Unfortunately,
Sorry to hear.
I did get to go home on leave and attend her funeral. I was actually one of her pallbearers, so that was cool yet sad. Yet a whole mixture of emotions, going through my head, through my mind at the time. But yeah, thankful for those experiences. And then, so I graduated from Parachute Riggers course in October 2017. Then I came out to Camp Pendleton right after that. So late 2017 to just about now, I've been in California.
Nice.
So.
Cool. What about you?
Oh, my journey is very interesting.
All
So,
right. Let's hear it.
I decided to join the Marine Corps right out of high school, and I decided to get my, you can get a certain amount of credits through college. And so I was like, okay, let me get these credits so I can get promoted. But that wasn't like my initial route. I wasn't like this gung-ho, I'm going to join the military because I love this nation and I want to serve my country. I was like, I need to get the heck out of Wyoming. I need to get the heck out of Wyoming. And there was things in my life that caused instability. So I was like, hey, I know that the military, they pay for your school, they pay for your housing, they pay for all this stuff.
Everything.
They pay for everything. So I'm like, dang, that's like a solid and stable way to go through life. I'm going to do that because I can go be a doctor and do all this awesome stuff. And then later to find out, you can't use your schooling to actually get out of the military. I was like, whatever. So I didn't ever go into school. But I joined, and my original job was not parachute rigger. I actually wanted to be in 0431 an embarkation specialist. So you handle logistics and offloading of ships and anything that has to do with logistics, you're that person. And so I shipped off to boot camp in February 2018. It was the last day in February 2018. And I get out to Paris Island, frigid cold. I've never experienced that kind of wet cold in my entire life, and it was so cold. And the first platoon that I was with actually when we went out to range, I almost broke my ankle because I stepped into a hole. And I was like, oh, this is great. And so if you get injured in boot camp, they send you to this, what's called the FRP platoon, female recovery platoon, male recovery platoon. So that way your body can heal a little bit, because they won't kick you out, and they won't like kick you out of boot camp until you're too broke to leave. Yeah. Pretty much. And so I'm sitting there in this recovery platoon, and I have to wait there for like a whole month for my swelling in my ankle just to like go down and where I can put weight on it again. And so the next time I get picked up, you have to go all the way back through grass week if you don't qualify through the firing week. So that's like a whole nother 2 weeks added on to my month that I was already held back for that. And so then I get picked up, go through grass week again. And at this time, they'd made me guide, because I was like there the longest. I knew the game. I could play the game really well. I ma'am, no ma'am. And then myself and like 6 other recruits, we had weapons malfunctions the weekend before Memorial Day weekend. Wow. And they're like, well, this sucks because we don't have anything happening on Monday because it's the 72. And so we're going to drop you to the next platoon that's going to be picking up, which wasn't until like training day 16. So I went from like training day 46 all the way to training day 16. And that was a shock of my life. I thought, I'm never going to get off this flipping island. Help me. Like, so my boot camp experience was, instead of only 3 months, and turned into 6 months. Wow. And by that time, I'd been made guide a couple times, and on the final platoon I was at, that I got dropped to, I was guide, and oh my gosh, that's probably the worst thing ever. You get the most hazing. Like, they don't call it hazing; they call it IT, but it's literally hazing. So you get drilled the most, you get everything the most, and so. But I did it. I graduated, guide and company honorman. But my body suffered for that so hard, because I had, instead of a 3-month boot camp, it was a 6-month boot camp. Damn. So imagine doing all the training basically 3 times. Yeah. All the hikes, all the running. I barely made it through the crucible because my hip was so screwed up. And I was like, okay, but I need to finish this, because if I finish this, I can get off this island. Yeah. Like, the mental fortitude to push through physical pain that is like that, I will say, has strengthened me as an individual now for my resilience. But after I finally graduated, I went off to MCT, and that was over here at Pendleton. And I get out there, and they made me guide again. And I was like, oh, crap, I don't want to be guide again. But at least I'm not like a recruit anymore. I'm actually a Marine. But it didn't really matter, because they still treat you like a recruit there. You just maybe you have a pin of a PFC or not. And so we get out there. Hips still really bothering me, but I pushed through it. I didn't do one exercise in the final hike because of how bad my hip was. But they're like, we don't want to hold you back anymore. We just want to push you through, get you out of here, because that way you can at least get into the proper health care that you need for recovery. And I'm like, okay, great. I still graduated guide and company honorman for my leadership, but my entire platoon, they booed me because I got guide, even though like I didn't actually finish the final hike. So they were like so jealous. They were so mad. I'm like, that just shows like your physical is not what makes you a good leader. It's how you talk to people, how you treat people, your personality, all these things. And so I'm stuck in this like little recovery platoon called Lima Company. Like, this company is crazy. People literally
the infamous
Lima Company.
People get every Marine that goes through there knows about.
They know.
Lima
people
Company.
Get stabbed there. Like, there's some crazy crap that's happened there before.
People get stabbed.
They're like the rogue Marines.
The rogue Marines. I'm not even kidding. Like, they OD on like cough syrup and like all this crazy stuff. I'm not even kidding you. That happened the first night I was there.
Syrup?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck. Wow. I'm literally stuck in that platoon until I can get like healed or better to get sent off to my next training.
Try not to get stabbed.
Try not to get stabbed, really. Like
an OD on
like flipping cough syrup. So I'm stuck there. And if you get dropped in training, your job that you signed up for initially gets dropped also. So they just stick you in whatever open position that they have. Yeah. And so I went from being a logistics person to admin. And I was like, I did not join the military to go flipping admin, man. Did not do that. And so
By the way, in the Marine Corps, we call admin the paper pushers.
Paper pushers.
Because they are the
major
paper pushers.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother story. So we were doing like squad bay inspections, and the BC comes in for like the broken people platoon, the Lima company. He's walking through. He's like, "How you doing tonight, Elvestad?" That's my maiden name. And I'm like, "Well, sir, quite frankly, I'm not happy with my life right now." And he's like, "Well, why? What's going on?" I was like, "Well, sir, I've been dropped multiple times. I'm injured, and I got a job that I did not want to sign up for." And he's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know anything but admin." He's like, "Okay, well, I'll send you my company office and go talk to my gunny, and we'll get your job changed like tomorrow." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. Everybody's looking over at me like, "You can do that?" I'm like, "I guess I can." Like, okay, because I guess nobody's ever tried or spoken up about it. And so that next day, that week, I go there and I talk to the gunny, and he's like, "So what do you want? What do you want, Lance Corporal Elvestad?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "Here's a whole book of jobs, and look through it, tell me which one you want, and we'll pencil it in and we'll get you signed up for next ship out." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I'm looking through and I'm like, "No, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that." I'm like, "Oh, 451, what is that?" He's like, "Oh, that's a parachute rigger." I'm like, "What do you do with that?" He's like, "You jump out of airplanes." I'm like, "No way. Dude, that's so cool." And little did I know, like, I'm already broken physically. Like, jumping out of airplanes is probably not the best thing for you to do.
For your hip and all
for my hip and my back and my knees, like whatever. Like, God's got me. It'll be fine.
Yeah, my legs don't work, but I'm gonna just jump out of an airplane.
Just as fine. I mean, as long as you can make it to the end of the airplane, doesn't matter how it's on the ground. As long as you're like get out, you're fine. And so I picked that. And so that was like I graduated. I graduated Lima Company, pretty much getting out of there. I shipped out to.
Did you get stabbed?
I didn't get stabbed, thank God.
Okay.
But somebody did. Yeah, but somebody definitely
try
that. Well, like literally, like a couple weeks before I got there, somebody was stabbed on the bleachers and died.
Wow.
What? Yeah, I'm not kidding you. Like literally, there's some crazy stuff.
That sounds like prison. That sounds like prison right there.
Yeah, well, it is. And there was people playing with Ouija boards and stuff like that. Like I know because I played with a Ouija board at one point with being there, because like it's such a broken and like scary place to be out when you don't know when you're ever gonna get out of there. You're physically broken. You're away from your family. Like there's definitely no God there. Whatsoever. It's scary.
Yeah, a lot of spirits have a lot of playroom to just feast and fester inside of these people.
It's really scary there, but that's a whole other conversation too. There's so many tangents we can go off of.
Oh, absolutely.
But anyway, so get out of there in like November, and I fly out to Fort Lee, Virginia, and then from Fort Lee, Virginia, went to Fort Benning to get your jump wings, and graduated from Fort Lee and came out to Pendleton in 2019. So he got out here a little bit earlier than I did. And I was actually previously engaged before I met him. And I met the guy when we were in the Lima Company. I was in the broken platoon. We were all broken people. So we're like, let's all be broken together and happy. Oh my gosh. And so we met, and he actually like changed his job to be a parachute rigger. But because he had rhabdomyolysis, he couldn't like go on any further into the military. He had to get discharged because he was taking roids and doing all this crazy stuff. Like that was his own demise. But he actually left me over FaceTime when I shipped out to California, because who knows why. It was only a God thing that happened. Thank God I'm not with him, and that God gave me this one. So, but
yay.
The most like yay.
So excited, yay.
Yep, exactly.
No, yeah, it was huge, and that was when we were in the same company and same platoon. So yeah, that's like my.
When did you guys get married?
We got married in September. Well,
she see what she did right there?
I was like,
she throw the question and you're like, kind of testing you.
Yeah, so
she's just like.
It was Labor Day.
It was September 3rd.
Yeah, it was Labor Day weekend. It was Friday, September 3rd, 2021.
Oh.
So we went to the courthouse in Santee, got our marriage certificate.
Marriage license. They give you
license.
Whatever they call it. It's called a marriage license?
It's a license. It's official.
Okay. Yeah. It's official. Okay.
Okay,
sweet. Yeah, no, so we awesome. Even better. Yeah, so we got married at the courthouse. Had a little ceremony. We had some really good friends with us at the time. I mean, they're still good friends.
They're all moved away.
Yeah, they kind of one couple moved to Washington, the other couple moved to Texas. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, and it was my first time ever doing that, and hopefully my last time.
Yeah,
no,
hopefully.
I'm kidding. It definitely was my last time doing that.
And we can joke with each other about this stuff, because the stuff that like we've gone through in our testimony, like I feel like that's kind of a good segue of like what our first couple years of life together was. was not healthy. It was not.
Yeah, because June 15th is actually coming up on 4 years of us being, being together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a series of trials. It's been sometimes it feels like it's a long journey. Like even though we've only been together for 4 years,
I feel like I've known him a whole lifetime.
Yeah, we've we've been going to Awaken for almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
And it's like it felt like we just met yesterday, but sometimes it feels like we met like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The process, the journey has been so crazy, but it's been crazy awesome because of the things, that we endured, the things we went through together, the things that we argued about, the things that, we couldn't both agree on, but we decided that, we had to come to some sort of, middle point in order for us to keep going together. Because, we always had to remind ourselves that, even though we're together, even though we're two totally separate people, like we agreed to this, and we should at least stay loyal to the fact that we agreed to this, and we're going to continue no matter what.
Yeah.
For richer, for poor, for better, for worse.
There you go.
In sickness and in health.
And
that's what it is. It all boils down to, because we both came out, like I said, I came out of a previous engagement. It wasn't healthy, toxic. I mean, I think most people, they kind of hit their really rock bottom toxic before they like get the door open for that final person that is their yes and their forever. I'm not speaking that over everybody, but it's like you sometimes go through the rock bottom and then like you just really find your knight in shining armor or your princess. And that's what happened for us. But we started not really knowing how to listen or be accountable to any higher being or person or adult or anything like that. And so with me being in such a physical state of pain and emotional pain, someone breaking off your engagement, you're physically in so much pain, like all of these things, you're just trying to find like an inner peace. And so in our platoon, actually, and this is the first time we're going to like say it on whatever, but I've shared it with other people, but in our own platoon, our sergeant was actually selling LSD, ecstasy, Molly. He was selling that amongst the platoon.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when you're in an environment, when you're 19, 20 years old, you're physically broken, mentally broken, emotionally broken by everything, because that's what the military does. It just like spits you up, chews you out, and you're a robot, and you're gonna never amount to anything without the military is what they basically drill into you. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners.
Yeah, this is also something that nobody ever really talks about.
They don't. Like,
you're isolated.
You're so isolated.
Like, me being from Missouri, I wanted to become a Marine just so that I could be part of something greater than myself. I had some sort of longing to do something that was like, oh my gosh, this is all high and mighty, but I didn't think of it at the time. I was like, man, I want to create some sort of significance or meaning for my life.
Right.
And, going through the military is definitely a different experience, but it's also something that could turn very dark very fast.
Very fast. And that's what happened with us, like shifting into what's going on in our platoon and stuff. We, they were just what's called family trip nights. Mm-hmm. And if you got invited to it, like you would smoke weed, you'd have LSD, ecstasy, Molly, like all of these different things. And you were considered a family.
It's like a gang.
It's like a gang. It was literally a gang. Like our top sergeant was selling it to us. And then his little guy was also selling it. And he wasn't just selling to us. It was like across the whole base. It was across outside of military personnel and everything like that. And so when you don't have family out there with you and you feel alone, that makes you feel comfortable. They became your family. And it's like they told you all the tips and tricks to get it out of your system. Like just drink a whole gallon of cranberry juice and take some milk thistle and like you'll be fine. They're never going to pop on a drug test. None of that. That's literally what they were preaching to you. And it's like, oh yeah, I could actually be okay and there's no consequences. I'll be fine, right? So you're in that environment of coercion and you think it's okay. And when you're that young age and manipulatable, like, I mean, we were doing it every weekend. like literally every weekend just to escape what our week was like, to just, I was really searching for inner peace and trying to figure out like, man, this God thing isn't like real because my parents divorced, I was homeless, I was doing victimhood, pity stuff. But when you're in a pity environment, victimhood mindset, and you're in so much pain and people are just encouraging you to stay there, like you're going to do whatever you want to try to find that. And I don't know if you have seen Jesus Revolution with Greg Laurie, or is it Greg Laurie? Yeah. So like
Greg Laurie and Kelsey Grammer.
Like all those people, like I went on that same journey of like searching for a higher thing of life or higher meaning in life through psychedelics. And I thought, hey, if I go do that every weekend, like I'm going to be fine. Like I'm going to find my higher self. I'm going to come into middle chi. Like I was new age stuff.
Achieve my ultimate level
self.
of consciousness or whatever.
Yeah.
All this crazy stuff that they get that's out there, and it's so easy to get, and it's so scary that it's so easy to get. But that's really where our relationship started, was
the Lima platoon.
or not for us, but we started at Pendleton.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, sorry if I like backtrack or did anything, but we started at Pendleton.
June of 2019, she came out on her birthday,
In
May
May.
6th,
Yeah.
2019, to Camp Pendleton.
Okay.
The first time that we ever actually interacted with each other, I was actually helping her check in to the unit. So I was driving her around, making sure she got all the proper documentation, all the proper check-in, all that stuff. That's how
we,
first
like,
time that
met.
we ever interacted
Nice.
with each other. And
Did you like her right away, and you was like trying to put the moves on it?
well, no, actually, as a matter of fact,
But you were like, yeah, let me show you around.
Dude, he had his Mustang. He had that cherry red Mustang.
yeah.
He went, "Rrr," and I said,
I had a race red 2013 Mustang GT,
Nice.
and it was completely, it was straight pipe. It had no catalytic converter. It had no, it had no mufflers, no nothing. It was just straight
Yeah.
pipe. So it purred like a kitten,
Yeah.
but a mean kitten. So that was the first time we ever interacted, and she definitely tells this story, a little more funny, but
do you want me to tell it then? Or
yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I had the ex guy, he had just like left me in like a week, not even a week or two prior, over FaceTime. And so I'm like in this like depressed state, and I'm like watching Netflix in my room and drinking and just
Before you continue though,
oh,
little bit of backtrack. I had just gotten out of a relationship with a girl in the Air Force. We had been talking for maybe a year, because we both met at Fort Lee. She was I don't know what they call it. She was a food specialist at a flight line, and she got stationed. It happened to be that she was from Missouri as well. She was from northern Missouri. Well, I guess you would say central Missouri, closer to Kansas or St. Louis. And so she gets stationed back home at Whiteman Air Force Base. We're still talking. I'm in California. We make it work long distance for a while, but I found out through one of her friends' Snapchat story that I also happen to be friends with, that she was
8 months pregnant.
she was
With
like
somebody
8 months
else's
pregnant
kid.
with someone else's kid. Happened out of the blue, had no idea about it. And, we FaceTimed, we talked, she acted completely normal. And
Wow.
For that 8 months.
Yeah, for that 8 months, and I had no idea about it.
It was like a soap opera.
Did our life just
And
literally-
then what happened was that.
Right. And so I found out about it, and I didn't. The things that were going through my mind were like, what did I do wrong? How could I have prevented this?
Which I think we all
there
go
was,
through those
there was
situations.
nothing I
Yeah.
could have done about it, because it was one of those. It was a one-night stand. She got super drunk. She didn't even remember. And then she found out she was pregnant. She was like, well, I didn't want to tell you because I thought you would be upset at me. And,
8 months.
What are you gonna do, just hand
You're
her the child?
about to have a
Hey.
baby. Yeah. What the
And-
Wait,
heck?
you want to be the baby daddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I told her, I was like, well, I'm not going to tell you that I'm upset.
I'm sorry. She's,
No,
I was like, you want to be the baby daddy? I'm sorry.
it should take a second for me to.
no.
Just got it. Shows up off a plane. Guess who's home? A send off, because he was retiring, and so we had a big
Going away party.
going away party ceremony,
Retirement
party, pretty much, and it was at the beach. And so he we're all playing in cornhole and doing all these games, and we're all there as a platoon. And it's just already weird being there with all your staff NCOs. And it's just like being a junior Marine and doing these things. You're just like, I don't know if I should drink right now because I don't want to get wasted near my.
There's definitely a switch that you have to be able to turn
like on and off like right away.
Yeah,
or like if I'm
where
gonna,
you have to be professional when you're in uniform, or whenever the end of the day happens, and then you can turn the switch off. But it's like
it's weird being around your staff NCOs like that. It's so whack.
It's
but
not normal.
It's not okay. They don't they don't train you how to do that. So, but anyway, so we were about to leave, and our friend, well, his friend and best friend now is the same still, John Milan. He was there, and we were all about to leave. And he comes up to me. He's like, hey, where are you going? I'm like, well, he's like, what are you going to do tonight? I was like, well, you want to know the honest answer? He's like, yeah, why? I was like, well, I'm probably going to go sit in my room and be depressed and just watch Netflix because I hate my life right now because I just like broken engagement, like physically, whatever. And so he's like.
She literally told me that.
I literally said that to him straight faced or like crying almost. He's like, how about you don't do that? And I'm like, well, what do you suggest we do? He's like, how about you come dog sit with me? And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I love dogs so much. Okay. And so, but we had to babysit his best friend because he was so drunk. And so we all pile in, and we had to leave like to go over into Vista, or it was in Oceanside. It was where was his house? It was in Vista, Oceanside side. And so
Shadow Ridge.
Oh, yeah, Shadow Ridge. And so we piled into his Mustang and brought him with us. And we go and we dog sat this beautiful little golden dog. And the only problem was there was only one bed for 3 people. And it was like the pull-out couch bed. It was a hide-a-bed.
Yeah.
And so he's drunk still. We order a pizza and we play Uno. And to this day, he has not beaten me in Uno. To this day.
Okay.
And I hold that.
I'll get you someday.
It's okay. He's like, I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm not good at Uno either.
It's all good. It's all good. And so John Blunt falls asleep on the floor. And
the drunk guy.
He falls asleep on the floor with the dog. And like we just call him the drunk guy because he was,
the drunk dog guy. Okay.
The drunk dog guy.
Okay.
The drunk guy with the dog.
He was getting cuddles with the dog all night. Like he was getting the dog action that night.
Oh my God.
sorry. But
wow.
That's my wife, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the Marine Corps. I'm gonna have nasty jokes. I don't know what to tell you, but nasty narky jokes, something like that. And dude, so I like go to sleep on the bed, and like I'm about half asleep, and he starts to crawl up next to me, and I think I was like half asleep, and he like starts to kind of like play with my hair, and I'm like, I feel like this is okay. Like I actually want this. I felt so comforted that he was like so gentle, and I'd never felt from somebody before like actually cared for my heart and not really like trying to get something out of me. But I think he thought I was asleep. So after that night, we woke up the next day, acted like I didn't even know. I didn't tell him like, oh, I knew you were touching my hair. Like, well, you're touching me. She's touching me. I'm not touching you. I'm touching me. Like that's what was happening. And so a couple weeks go by, and we were hanging out in my barracks room. Yes, everybody, we were cuddling. I'm sorry, but we were cuddling. Never even kissed or anything like that.
It was great.
It was great cuddling, right? And so we were laying there, and he
shower because he doesn't need a lot, just cuddles.
Yeah, just some cuddles and kisses, and tell him he's handsome.
All of a sudden, you have a baby.
I know, right?
You better watch out for those cuddles.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
100%.
Those could be so dangerous.
Could be so dangerous. Married couple things, right? I love it. And so,
funny.
So we were laying there, and I was like looking up at him, and I like had this urge, just like I really want to kiss him. But I don't want to break this friendship because we were like friends. Like he was the guy that I friend zoned, and I would take him shopping with me and make him look at clothes and like tell me I'm pretty, but like wouldn't get to kiss me at the end of the night.
Do you like to be friend zoned?
Well, so
honestly,
whenever we first met, we both friend zoned each other.
Yeah, we didn't want anything
because she had just broken off and got broken off of an engagement, and I just got I got totally punched in the nuts with the the whole.
Baby daddy thing.
My now ex-girlfriend's 8 months pregnant, and I can't do anything about it because I'm a Marine. She's an airman. We're not married, and we're both in 2 totally different places. So, we did automatically friend zone each other at first, but
who fell first? Like, was it you? I mean, you were the one touching her hair. So
well,
I'm assuming it was you. I don't think you were just like.
I like the face.
I'm pretty sure. Like, oh, look at.
Yeah, so I will say probably at first, yes, I did like her. And I knew there was a reason why I was attracted to her, even though I just went through this, traumatic experience and she warmed up to me. But at the same time, it was like,
I made the first move.
I want to, at first I was like, well, I want to wait to see what happens. It was like it wasn't really like I need to be with her right now. It was let's start from square one, get to know each other, and then we'll see where it goes.
The healthy way to do it.
Yeah, like it progressed.
See where it goes.
Not like,
It progressed.
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah, it 100%.
I done do that.
Well, no, once we turned the switch on, it was hard to turn off. It was like once we like knew we were for each other, and like this was like our BC days, right? Like
it was basically a anything goes moment. So like it happened.
Yeah,
it was just it wasn't like a nice little campfire. It was like a wildfire.
Yeah, well, it started like we were just cuddle buddies. We were cuddle buddies, and then we were just like, let's like be friends with benefits. And then it went to like, let's like change that title from friends with benefits.
You asked for that.
I asked for that because like I was used to that.
And you were like, sure.
Yeah, we were like, sure, why not? Because we didn't want that. Like, you're like, I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
I'm cool with it.
That's fine.
Yeah, because it was like,
sure.
it was like, we
were still emotionally detached. We were. Because we were both coming out of that stuff, but when you're emotionally detached from things, but you still want that like physical touch, we like kind of had an agreement of like, let's just be like friends with benefits for a little bit, and then if it grows into more of like us wanting to actually be together, like
but it wasn't. Yeah, it also wasn't just a friends with benefits.
It was deeper.
Like we were basically dating.
Yeah, like
it
was a very short. It was like a week, and then we're like
we
dating.
did things together. We were friends with benefits together. But she would go, go party and
go be stupid.
This is a testament to how far we've come.
Oh yeah,
because she would go out and party, go to like these house parties,
random
go get
places,
drunk at bars, random places,
dudes.
and she would call me like at 3:00 in the morning, and
help,
I would have to go drive off base and go save her. But that wasn't what I was thinking about at the time. I was like, oh, I'm saving you. It's like we both needed somebody or something there for us. So I, took it upon myself, even though we had other people in our platoon that she definitely could have called, but I was the only one who answered.
Yeah, he was. Like literally every other guy. The thing is, like when I first saw him, I didn't see Corey until as I saw him as an afterthought almost, even though he was driving me around, like all that stuff. He was the person that never like fully approached me and was like trying to get with me. So that was what made him different. Like he wasn't just like fondling me all over me. Like all the guys in my platoon, as soon as I got out there, they were all trying to go take me out drinking and go get me drunk and let's see what we can do to Chelsea, pretty much. And then that's exactly how it panned out. Yeah. And like they would be the ones that would come into my barracks room and cuddle me at night when I didn't exactly say that it was okay for you to do that, but I was pissed drunk, so I couldn't tell him no. Like, and they would walk me back to my barracks room, and he was the only person that didn't do that. Every other person was a nasty sleaze person. If you're a listener of this podcast, I don't talk to you anymore, so sorry, but I forgive you. But I hope you've cleaned up your life.
That's not cool. Yeah.
No, so that's what made him different. Is he didn't want something from me, and it was more of like we wanted something for each other, by each other, to like grow with each other, because we both like it was fun. Like I'd never had a dating relationship that was like truly exciting and exhilarating. Like we're trying all these different things. He taught me how to longboard, and we would go swimming, and we'd go do all these activities. We were like prime physical peak fitness and just doing all this crazy stuff. Like, hoorah, we're Marines. Mm-hmm. And then like, oh my gosh, we got into the psychedelics. And so we would just like see, and that's a whole nother thing I'm going to write a whole nother portion on, is just like the things that I've seen on psychedelics. It's like, I don't promote drugs, kids. They are absolutely bad. Do not do them. Please do not. But the experiences I will say that I got from them, I believe that we go through experiences to understand and have a discernment. Because if you don't, then you can never speak to it and you don't understand it. And like, if I was not a user of these substances, I couldn't go try to talk to a drug addict and be fix your life. It's like, no. No.
Yeah.
Who are you talking to me about that?
Yeah, you have never done it before. Yeah. How do you know about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, go ahead.
Yes, no, yeah. So just elaborate more on that. Like, so what is it that you saw, or like, what was your experience? I never, so
Yeah.
I hadn't never done psychedelics or anything like that.
Good.
Yeah. So back in the days, the only things that I did was like drink, right, and
Yeah.
also maybe smoke weed here and there. But I had never been huge on doing drugs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So what is it? What was your experience with that? And did you do anything else?
Anything
And
else?
if you don't mind sharing that.
Oh no, yeah, totally. I feel like being open about this is huge for other people to show just how rapidly your life can be changed around. So I started smoking and drinking at 16 because in Wyoming there's like nothing you can do there besides smoke, drink, and like go party, and like that's it. And so I had that exposure at a young age and lost my virginity at 16. Like everything happened in that year, and so kind of opened up the doors for a lot of addiction to just kind of start coming in. So I was an alcoholic at a very young age, and so when that wasn't enough, when I joined the Marine Corps, I was like, okay, alcohol sucks because you have like this terrible hangover and you feel achy and it's like sucks. I'm like, I don't want to touch alcohol anymore, so let's just go to drugs. And so as soon as I took my first drop of like for your paper tab of acid, it was actually in a barracks room, and him and I were together. And so I had this like sparked curiosity of wanting to do it because I'd heard about the family trip nights and I heard about like all these people doing it. And I was like, well, what's the harm in it? Like, I mean, I've done weed, psychedelics can't be that bad, right? It's a whole nother trip because when you take these things, when you take LSD, you're in it for however many hours. You have no idea how long these trips are going to last. For him, they weren't very long. For me, I think my longest trip was like 17 hours.
Wow.
That was like my most conscious trip. But the other one was like right before I OD'd. And so it was like, there was, the things that I saw different mystical beings, like spiritual creatures. The walls and the floors, everything. I saw things that were underneath the floors that were not underneath the floors that you could visibly see. I was seeing into a spiritual realm that is not seen to the naked eye. And because of the neural pathways that were created when you take all those substances, because your brain creates all these different pathways. If I stare at the floor long enough, I see different patterns. Or if I stare at the wall long enough, I can still see like absolutely insane patterns. Or if I fall asleep, I call them the gators. I'm like, babe, them flipping gators are back. I see these animated like so these, and everything is like in these geometrical patterns, and that's just like the way that those types of drugs are synthesized for you to see, or it's just also how your brain interprets and sees these different things. But so there's these gators that like are animated and they like are positioned in like a octagonal shape. All of their mouths are pointing towards the center, and they are like all filling in the spaces in between each other. So there's like 7 or 8 alligators, but then there's like 8 alligators in between them that are smaller, and it's like an outward going like spiral motion of them like chomping their mouths. I don't know why I see that, right? Every time I like get relaxed right before I fall asleep, I'll see that. And I have no idea why. And I've like looked it up. I'm like, do I have like a brain aneurysm happening? Am I going to die? Like,
they do call it a disorder. I forgot what it was.
But we don't claim disorders. It's just
they called it something as like HPPD or something.
It's like if you take it like if you're doing psychedelics and you reach a certain level with like your brain having that type of high, it can be imprinted in your brain pretty much.
It goes away with time.
It does, and I mean, we've done psychedelics from LSD to DMT. That was a very interesting experience, like adding LSD and DMT together, because DMT is one of the most intensive psychedelic, psychoactive drugs that you could ever take. It's like you go into this blast off. And you're not in control of anything. And the first time I did a DMT trip, I was sitting in like a game chair, and you inhale it like a vape pretty much, and you have to have somebody help you inhale it, because after the first or second inhale, you're like, you're out. Like your physical capacity, you're so high that you can't even function. That's how quick it happens within with just a couple inhales. And so you take the first inhale, and your brain starts to like open up these different pathways, and or the drug does, starts to open up these different things for you to see. And then by the third one, you're like fully like out. You just can't move. You're not thinking. Your eyes are open, but you're in a whole different universe. I
still remember the smell.
No, I know the smell is it's a whack thing, but basically I saw the floor. It was like or the color scheme of everything. It was kind of like this gray. Everything was grayscale, and it was like Game Boy. I don't know if you can picture yourself like 90s Game Boy.
Yeah.
Was the animation of it is what it looked like. And the floors looked like they were like rolling like waves, and they were like picking up, shifting, and rolling like this. And then once the blast off came, it was like I was in a spaceship, and I just went shoo, and it went from white to black instantly. And then I started seeing all these different crazy mystical elves, and like the ground was moving and shifting, and it was like there was different, like, you know, Pandora, like the
like in the movie Pandora.
yeah, the movie Pandora with
You mean Avatar?
Avatar, yeah,
Avatar?
like the planet the planet Pandora. Yeah, where they've got those floating islands. Like there's all these like perfectly square, conical islands that are like floating in the air, and then there's like this one Hindu being that's like all in the middle of it. And when I was looking at my body and in my mouth, I felt like my teeth and whole body were just like falling out of my mouth. Like I literally felt that my teeth were just, they were all falling out. My whole body felt like it was rolling inward on itself and rolling back outward.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and I was like watching, but and my hands were sitting on my lap like this, apparently. And so when I would look down, my hands looked like they just kept like falling and falling. And I'm like, why do they keep falling so many times? What's going on? Like, I'm not in control of this right now. And then I saw my body break up into like a bajillion atoms, and then like go back to a bajillion atoms.
I
Like
experienced that too.
it was like you like disappeared, you came back together, your body was like falling and molding and multiplying. It was doing all these crazy things.
So basically what happens whenever the process to get to the point to where she was, like, it was like a ritual.
It is a ritual. Like when people do these types of drugs, it's a ritual.
You had a vaporizer, and you know, the person would put a certain amount that they feel would you would get what they call a breakthrough. And once you break through, you would go into what's called a waiting room deep inside of your
subconscious,
your subconscious, whatever it is, trying to get to the other side of whatever.
It's all demonic. It all is.
And so like what would happen was you would hit the vaporizer, inhale it, do a 10-second inhale,
and then 10-second exhale.
10-second exhale, and you do that 3 times. On the 3rd time, what happened with me was I was sitting on a couch. I fell back onto the couch, the back cushion, and it was like my whole body fell through the couch. And all of a sudden, there was like infinite amount of geometrical shapes and geometrical patterns, and it would change infinitely.
Yeah, I saw
and
that
it
too.
would like spin in a clockwise motion.
That's how time
and it
moves.
felt like I was, it felt like I was moving
Inception.
through time.
It is. It's
Like the movie?
100%.
It felt like I was moving through time, but I never broke through, got to the other side, into the waiting room, whatever was going to happen on the journey, because I was stuck in the loop. And then I was still going through the loop, but I reversed and came back out of it, you know, to whatever perception or reality this is. Yeah. And my immediate response, mind you, the trips are very short.
They're like 2 to 12 minutes at the max.
Yeah.
They're like
very
short. Very, very
but
short.
It feels like you are
in a whole eternity.
There for an eternity. I felt at one point during this whole experience, I thought, well, I guess this is my life now. That's what I said to myself.
Yeah, he thought he was dying.
That's what I said to myself. I was like, well, I guess this is it. I guess this is my life now. Like, I came to terms with it, even though I didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah, you're not in control.
And I was in the deep of it. I have no idea. I could have been 10 seconds and I could have said that to myself, you know?
Yeah, it was like maybe 3 minutes for him.
It felt like a terribly long time, but I came back out of it into, you know, I came to full consciousness, and the immediate thing I said once I regained everything that I knew that I said, this is not okay.
Yeah, he was freaking out.
Yeah. Apparently I was freaking out during the whole trip, and I didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it just goes to show, like, what is really out there that is trying to take our attention and can actually manipulate us chemically. Like, anything that can infiltrate us chemically can actually change our mind, our vision, our patterns, and all these different things. And so when he was talking about rituals, like there's peyote, there's ayahuasca, and, you know, Joe Rogan, sorry, I was trying to say Seth Rogen and Joe Rogan at the same time. That was whatever word. And so, but he talks a lot about all these different substances, and like, you know, he's going to do his own prerogative and stuff like that with life and how he sees the world. But ultimately, doing those things as a gateway into the demonic and into different things that can infiltrate who you are as a human being. And like,
it definitely
opens up so many pathways,
so many things to come into you.
Yeah. And like, and I could probably talk about this more at a later time too. But just that's just a small snippet of a lot of the things that we've seen. And like, when you do it every weekend and you do it all the time, it's like you have to keep increasing your doses. It's not just like, oh, let me just take a tab. It's like, oh, now I got to take 3 or 4 tabs to get the high again. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, wait, let me mix some like Molly and some ecstasy like all in the same night. So like we were doing like at least 3 tabs plus like 4 presses of ecstasy and then like 3 Molly capsules all in the same night.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot. And that's expensive. Yeah. It was a lot of drugs. But it was.
But you guys only do psychedelics, or you guys?
Never did anything past that.
It was only psychedelics. The only stimulant we ever really did was Molly ecstasy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Molly ecstasy weed.
Even then, though, some people consider
they call it party
psychoactive.
Drugs.
Psychedelics.
So there's like even therapy like with that.
They do, with like mushrooms and like psilocybin, all that kind of stuff. I just think that you know, if you're relying on that for things, for healing and all these different things, then you're looking in the wrong place for healing. But talking, like I talked briefly just overviewing an overdose, but I was on a bunch of prescription medications at the same time while I was in the military for all the physical pain that I was in. Yeah. And so we had reached a point where our lives just kind of spun out of control because our sergeant and the Lance Corporal that was underneath him, they got arrested, and we were all enveloped in this like drug ring circle thing because they thought that we were some drug kingpin operators because we knew him and we were like in cahoots with him in association. But in reality, we were just trying to find life. Like we were just trying to like figure
things out.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure things out. And but myself, Corey, and like how many other people? It was like 12 people in our immediate platoon.
Yeah, so I call ourselves the inner circle because we really were the inner circle.
The first inner circle that got in.
Yeah, the guy who was supplying to us, our sergeant, there was him, the guy who was under him, who was also, you know, part of the, I guess you could say, operation where they were, you know, they were selling together. And, you know, on base, off base, they were doing anything and everything everywhere.
Yeah.
So they were the ones who were supplying all of it. And there were 10 other people in our platoon, and so that's what I consider the inner circle. But yeah, all 12 of us got arrested by the criminal investigation division on Camp Pendleton. We were arrested in front of our whole company,
platoon,
our
everything.
Whole platoon.
They like literally treated us like we were murderers and criminals. And when in reality, we were just some kids that were mentally screwed up, physically screwed up, and lonely, and trying to figure out how to go through life and not hate it and want to kill ourselves.
Yeah.
And the way and the mannerisms that they handled it, and how they made us all take plea deals to instead of going up to like a court martial, because they're like, you can either go to the brig or you can take this plea deal. They gave us no other options. They were like, you if you try to go to court, guess what? We're going to make sure you end up in the brig. Like just threatening the brig, hard brig. Yeah. And so it's really sad because wife beaters and DUI people they get to stay in the military.
Oh, really?
They get to stay in.
Wow.
But as soon as you touch drugs or they catch wind,
people who get convicted or, I mean, basically it's convicted of domestic violence, you know,
or
things
DUI.
along the lines of that, or driving under the influence, driving while
hazing.
intoxicated.
You can stay in for hazing and like, you know, doing all this nasty stuff.
Yeah, they say that they all have a zero tolerance policy. Yeah. Because, you know, even in the military, you know, drugs, you know, abuse, violence, anything like that, it's zero tolerance. But the only thing that stands out between those is they give them a choice to stay in, and they
just reduce their rank.
They do what's called a non-judicial punishment. Yeah. So they take away their pay for a little bit.
And they reduce their rank.
They put them on a little bit of restriction, like, hey, you can't
go
off
base. It's like timeout, pretty much. You can't drive your car around for a little bit, and you get a little bit less pay.
But anything involving drugs, they treat you like you murdered somebody.
100%. 100%.
And it's the craziest thing. And, you know, like, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, everything's a zero tolerance policy, but once you separate like one specific area from the other and you treat them like it's way worse than it actually is.
Yeah.
They didn't treat
Then,
it like we
you
were
know,
like a
they're-
mental health case.
Yeah.
They literally treated us like we were like Osama bin Laden. I'm not kidding you. The way that they completely isolated us and separated us from the platoon, the types of tasks and things that they were making us do while we were pending legal.
It was just
It was us and like
It was
12 other.
Yeah, it was us and 10 other people.
in our
So
in our immediate platoon, but there was
Yeah.
other people
Got it.
across base that also got caught.
Yeah.
So we were like the first of like 300 Marines, and there's like a whole story on this. So we're not the only ones that like
Yeah.
went through it, but we were the ones
We
that
were the first
We were the
ones.
first ones, so they
So
punished us
they-
the hardest because we were
Yeah.
the first ones that got found out.
Yeah, put an example.
Example, right? And
Yeah.
but I mean, people still do it. People
Yeah.
are still doing this crap. Of
course,
and it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's so
and
sad.
and it's really funny because, well, it's not funny. It's a very sad thing, but it's a very unironic because the unit that we were attached to, and you know, you can even look this up. So I don't think that any of this information is not out. But we were part of 1st Transportation Support Battalion.
Yeah, which it's merged.
One of the most known battalions for having some of the worst Marines,
The worst command.
as far as the command aspect, as far as drug cases, as far as domestic
and
violence
alcohol,
cases,
all these things. Like they're the hub.
alcohol-related incidents and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So we weren't the only ones,
Yeah.
but because there were so many of us in one small area,
There was like hotspot.
they kind of like shone a spotlight on it, and they're like, well, if you do this, this is going to happen to you.
Yeah.
But with all of those other Marines after us, that didn't really happen.
No,
Yeah.
they all got like generals or whatever.
It's so crazy, right? Right, because I mean, we kind of know these things happen, like outside. Well, I
Right.
was not in the military, but I'm like
Right.
well aware that. Well, not well aware because I don't know anything.
I know nothing.
But
I
but
plead
what,
the fifth.
Yeah, but exactly. But what I'm trying to say is like there's information out there that
Right.
like some people in the military are involved with like drugs, cartels, and
Oh,
like,
yeah, it's
the
so
dark
deep.
side of,
The-
of being in the military,
Human
right?
trafficking.
Human trafficking.
Yeah.
That is like
Yeah.
taboo. You don't actually talk about it, right? And I mean, like being patriot and all that is all cool and stuff. But also, what about the dark side of things that you guys are kind of
Right.
talking about a little bit, right? So,
Yeah.
like things that people maybe a lot of patriots don't talk about it, right? Veterans, they don't say those things.
Like I said, that's the most damaging to your body. Like I mean, I could do a 22-minute 3 mile, but that was like when I was in peak physical fitness. Like I was doing like all these sports in high school. I was doing CrossFit, and then so doing the Marine Corps training was like butter to me. It wasn't anything that was like anything out of the new or norm for physical training. But if you do it so much and you're doing PT at 4:30 in the morning on top
very
of doing
taxing.
so taxing, and like I said, all the hikes, you literally wear the same. Like you all pack the same packs.
Yeah.
And you all carry the same weapons, and you all hike the same distance. You do all these things. And at Paris Island, like everything is pretty much flat there. But now they've opened up training for females to go over and do recruit training over at Pendleton with the guys. Like that's the most
so
dumb
there's-
thing I've ever heard of because
I
those
think
hills.
as of 2020 or
Or it was 29.
2020,
It was like right after I graduated boot camp. It was like
Oh, that's
2019
right.
when they started to push
they
the
started
integration of
integrating
females.
that were west of the Mississippi
To go over to Pendleton.
Yeah, over to MCRD San Diego.
Is that just because like what?
Because they wanted to try it or whatever, but like because
Okay.
only the female recruits would go to Paris Island,
Okay.
and so I don't know if they were just doing it because I honestly have no idea what their thought process was, but they're this is stupid. But they're like, let's send them over there, and so those hills that I don't know if you've ever seen any of those hills on Pendleton.
No.
Corey can attest to this, and I mean I ran some recon hills with them, but
I'll just say
the
this:
Reaper.
the hills suck.
They suck. They're like
They suck.
you're like crawling up almost 100% incline, like it's insane
Really?
on some of them.
Yeah. So on the final hike that we have of the Crucible, there's the initial hill.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a half a mile up. Well, not literally half a mile, but you're hiking about a half a mile at a very steep incline, and that's the first hill.
Wow.
And then it just keeps getting
It's
worse
called the
and worse.
Reaper,
The Reaper.
and there's a reason why it's called the Reaper, because if you can't get up that Reaper, you're not
You're not graduating.
you're not graduating.
Your
If
Marine
you get
Corps career has
injured,
died.
if you get injured, you know what they do? They put you in a truck and they drive you to where all the recruits who were hiking graduate on top of the Reaper.
And they just sit there and watch everybody.
It's like I don't know how long the hike is. Like I don't remember exactly how long it was, but for me that day on the the last hike on the Crucible, it was a very important and a very impactful day because it also happened to be the Marine Corps birthday. So November 10th, 2016 was the 240, I think it was the 241st Marine Corps birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it was the day that the Marine Corps turned formed. 241 years.
Yeah.
So that was also the day I earned my Eagle Globe and Anchor. I became a Marine.
Nice.
So like I earned the title Marine. So that was a very
was the Marine the first branch ever formed in the United States?
I think it was
the third.
Yeah,
because it was the Army. And then the Navy, and then the Marine Corps.
Because the Marine Corps is like a subdivision of the Navy.
Okay.
It's like the redheaded stepchild that doesn't get any funding.
Yeah. all of them, all of those branches, all three of the branches were birthed in 1775, though, I think.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the day I became a Marine was the day of the Marine Corps birthday. So it held a very special place in my heart. And then, we got to Warriors Breakfast. But yes, the amount of training or the type of training that we do on the West Coast is a little different in an aspect of terrain as far as the Crucible goes, because you're dealing with nothing but sand and hills. So it is different in a way, but you
say different between the east and
because there's
west,
East Coast Camp Lejeune, Paris Island.
Paris Island. Camp Lejeune's a whole different. Just Paris. It's just Paris Island.
Yeah, right. Paris Island. That's one place where
males and females
east of the Mississippi River go. Okay. And then if you live west of the Mississippi River, like Missouri, whatever states are aligned over, that's where all the other recruits go to MCRD San Diego. But it was. And there's like this old thing that goes on between East Coast Marines and West Coast Marines, like West Coast, Best Coast. Yeah. It's kind of like a battle, like, West Coast Marines, you're the Hollywood Marines. We East Coast Marines, we're the better Marines, blah 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 blah.
It's kind of funny. Is it not the same?
It's all pretty much the same.
It's pretty much the same. They're just like trying to flex and stuff. But
it was just Wes is better.
It's like yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but to circle back, because I always went on on those tangents. But so after we got arrested and everything, that was a really dark, because we got arrested in front of our platoons, right? And it was a very dark time. I actually was on the verge after we got dismissed from sitting at CID, and we had to go and stand in front of our platoons and our leaders. They dismissed us to go back to our rooms after we'd just been at the day prior in handcuffs and sitting there in an interrogation room and full on arrest. It was crazy. And so I won't go into detail with that because there's no point. But you get the picture. You see in movies, you get arrested, you see an interrogation room for 6 hours, and they're like, I know you did this, and it's crying, whatever. So, but that's not how you feel in the moment. Obviously, you're freaking out because you're a 20-year-old kid who's never been arrested, and you're like, I got all this evidence. Just
by the way that she tells stories, man, it's so funny. It's hilarious, really, dude. Yeah.
I flex.
She's something very sad or traumatizing. She just makes it funny.
That's comedy.
That's comedy.
My life is comedic.
We've both told this story so many times that it is funny.
Yeah.
Because like I said, looking back on who we are today and what we've accomplished so far and what we came out of, what we ultimately just the struggle that we went through, trying to get back on our feet, trying to
Can
finding
I finish
our
my
identity.
tangent real quick?
Yeah.
Before we go on another tangent.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Cool. No, you're good. Because otherwise we'll go on another tangent. We won't get back to this tangent.
Yeah.
But so that day, I was about ready to just go into my bathroom and get my razors and go slice my arms open. And he comes up to my room and he knocks on the door and he checks on me. And because we had just stood in front of our gunnies and our company commander and all this other stuff, and they just ripped us to crap after we had just been through everything. And we didn't have our phones because they took them all for evidence and everything. And so they told us, you cannot go home for Christmas for leave because you're pending legal. And so that was rough. So we stayed back at Pendleton that Christmas. And then, 2020 comes around, January, we're still using drugs, even though we're pending legal. Like, that's how deep and dark of a hole that we were mentally, because we're like, well, we're already getting kicked out.
Yeah.
Who cares?
We were just
We'll
like,
do
might
it
as
some
well
more.
just ride this roller coaster till, whatever
Till we get
happens.
kicked out. Just do it, keep doing it. And we do it in our bed or in our barracks room and stuff, because we couldn't go off base. And so, once COVID hit, it was March when we made the decision to, they had just given no base, like no going off base orders. That was like a direct order from the brigadier general to all the Marines on base because of COVID, because they're like, the whole world shut down in March. And so did the bases. They're like, you can only go off base for like necessary things that you cannot buy at the PX. Like, that's the only time you can go off, and you have to sign out with all these people.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't listen to that because, we didn't get to go home for Christmas, already depressed out of our minds, wanting to kill ourselves. And we're still doing drugs. I'm physically hurting, all this junk, right? And so we decided it'd be a great idea to go get an Airbnb off base and go get high, right? That's a great idea when you're already pending legal and the government literally says you can't go off base. And so at this time, I was still on a bunch of prescription medications like gabapentin, muscle relaxers, anti-anxiety, antidepressants, like all this cocktail, right? And so we go off base to this little Airbnb. I still remember where it is, over in Oceanside. And so, and we go there and we take an exorbitant amount of the psychedelics and everything all at once, while all those other drugs were in my system. And so what had happened was that night, or that early that morning, we got called because they needed like a whole company formation. And like, we were all like freaking out. We're like, oh gosh, like there's company formation. We're all high as crap. Like, how are we going to get back on base? I don't know. We were all freaking out because that night also the Airbnb, like adjacent, because it was like a duplex or whatever.
Oh,
the
yeah,
other
it was
one,
a bunch of teenagers
kids. who were also Marines. Their place got raided by the cops because
there was a lot of them that were underage drinking, and
they also had drugs.
Yeah,
they had like
that night they
had bags and bags of shrooms, or what was it?
Yeah, they had a bag of mushrooms, and they came and knocked on our door. They're
like, hey man, you want some drugs? And we're like, no, we're already high. Thank you so much. but the cops called on them for being like reckless and breaking and like doing all this crazy stuff. And so we shut all our blinds. We like acted like we weren't even in the building because we were like freaking out, thinking that they were going to come into our place when we're all flipping high out of our minds. Because it wasn't just us there; it was us and another couple other people there, And so the next morning we get called by our one of our guys, like, hey, we all got a company formation, get over here right now. And so because I was on so many prescription medications, I could use the excuse like my body hurts, like I'm not feeling good, all the drugs I'm taking make me feel really sick. Mm-hmm. So I just got to go back and lay in the room. But when you're that high, like trying to cognitively not freak out and go into a psychotic episode is so hard, because if you're that high and you go to a psychotic episode, you can have a heart attack and you can die. And you can overdose, technically, because of all of the stuff, your body interacting and chemicals and stuff. And so I was freaking out at this point because we'd already been called on to base. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get found out, right? And so we decided after the formation to go back off base to try to get me to calm down and be in a little bit more of a calm environment, like a hotel room, just to not be on the same base where my offenders and everybody else that were bad people to me. And so we're in this hotel room, and I'm freaking out, and I start to feel myself spiral, and I started to see my life flash before my eyes because I was literally having a heart attack. And when they say that you see images of your life before you die, that is true. That is 100% true. I saw myself in a hospital room, even though I wasn't even in a hospital room. I saw myself, like, people were around me, and then it flashed and everything was black for, like, I don't know, if your heart stops, your heart stops. Like, it doesn't matter how long, but my heart stopped. And then I came back, and I was not in the hospital room anymore. I was cognitively back in the hotel room. But Corey was not Corey. He was every person who had done evil against me. And so every time he would try to come and calm me down, I would immediately go and try to abuse him, like get him off me, freak out, run away from him, because he was going to come and kill me. That's what I thought. That was where my headspace was. And so
it was pretty wild.
It was pretty wild. And I wasn't in control of any of this, like my body or my mind or anything. And so I actually broke out of the hotel room pretty much topless, running out, freaking out, thinking that he was my ex-fiance trying to come and kill me. And the cops got called. And so I ended up getting handcuffed because I was freaking out. And the only way to get me, they had to get me to the hospital to get all these drugs out of my system. That was the only way that they could help me pretty much.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting sent to the brig while I got ushered off to the hospital, and they started pumping drugs out of me. And I kid you not, I saw Satan in my hospital room with me. I was getting drugs pumped into one arm and pumped out of the other arm to detox and try to get you out of that state.
Yeah.
But he showed up in the form of the guy who was selling the drugs to me. He was standing at the end of my bed, and he literally had the same tattoos, the same face, same everything, but his eyes were like glowing red, and he had a hospital gown on. But he was just standing there at the end of my bed with his arms crossed, like looking at me, like smirking, like, you're going to die here, and I'm going to make sure of that, and nobody's going to miss you. Like, telling me this. Like, I'm literally watching Satan in my room tell me this, and he would like disappear from standing at the end of my bed, and he'd be like standing right next to me, and then he'd like disappear again, and he'd come... Like, he would be moving, like he was spiritually moving throughout this hospital room, and I'm freaking out. Like, I'm so like drugged up, but getting detoxified at the same time. It's a very weird state of mind to be in. And I was in and out of blackout. And so it was a very, I don't really remember a whole lot of like what all was going on, but I vividly remember that moment happening. Yeah. And so after they finally cleared me of like not being drugged up anymore, somehow they got me into some clothes, and I got shipped off to Alvarado Parkway, which is a mental institute where you go if you're like claiming that you're crazy, like you want to kill yourself or want to hurt other people. And so I was in the loony bin for like 3 days with literal crazy people who like are probably murderers or like psychotically unstable or like are smearing their crap on the wall. Like literally I saw all of that while I was in there. And when they found out that I was military, they finally got somebody to transfer me over to Balboa on base. And when I stayed in there at their mental institute for a couple days until they brought me back up to Pendleton. And literally not even 24 hours. It was the next day. They made me get in my camis after this horribly traumatic event. And then they went and NJP'd me in front of your whole company.
What
people.
What is that?
So non-judicial punishment is where they make you march in front of your superiors and a squadron of witnesses that are in your platoon, so that way they know to take this to their younger Marines and be like, hey guys, I saw this happen today, don't do this. So they make you have your peers are going to stand there with your command. They make you march down, they read you your charges against you of why they're going to NJP you. And so they reduced rank for me, and they went in there, and I had to basically just stand there and take what they were saying about me right after I'd just gone through all of that mental, emotional, physical trauma. And then
basically what it is it's, hey, this is what you did. This is why you're being punished. Okay, this is how we're going to punish you.
Like, kind of like shame you?
Shame you.
It's kind of like court in the way, but without an actual judge and without going to jail. They're like, okay, we're going to forfeit this amount of pay. Yeah. We're going to reduce this amount of pay that you get.
And you're going to reduce your rank.
We're going to reduce your rank to whatever rank we feel like you need to be reduced down to. Or sometimes it's and we're going to put you on restrictions. So you can't perform your job.
You can't drive.
You can't drive anywhere. You have to be in a certain place at a certain time. You have to check in at a certain place, certain time. And the only place you can go outside of your room is the chow hall or the duty hut where you check in with the duty NCO.
Yeah.
Then that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Like you're literally cut off from everything.
Everybody and everything.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, if you get caught doing what you're not supposed to,
they throw you in the brig.
They throw you in the brig, or they put more time, or they reduce all of your pay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, so you don't even get paid for a certain amount of time.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so, well, he's in the brig while all of that was happening to me. And then I got put on restriction. And so I was already, like, mind you, physically disabled. Like, I could barely walk. I was on, like, limited duty still. And so our first sergeant, he so was out to make us suffer that he wanted me to do all of the walking that literally would have added up to about 6 or 7 miles a day of walking. And I'm like, I can't even walk upstairs. Mm-hmm. So you think you're going to get me to walk to and from all these places? So I had to beg and plead with my doctor, like, hey, you know what I'm going through. You're doing all my treatments. I need you to physically write this note in blood. I don't care how, but you need to get it through to this guy that I can't do this. I can't walk. And that's the only reason why I was able to not do that. I literally, my day for a month and a half was walking up and downstairs, checking into a duty hut every 2 hours.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's also the worst part too. You have to check in every 2 hours during the day, like
So you can't nap, you can't do
throughout the
anything.
night too.
Yeah,
Through the night?
No, it's not throughout the night. So your last check-in is
really?
at like 10 p.m.
Like,
So
wow, you don't sleep, man.
no, yeah, your last check-in's at 10 p.m.
Okay.
And then your first check-in is at like 6 a.m.
Okay.
Still, that sucks.
Still, it sucks. Yeah, 'cause then
It
you're-
sucks for sure.
Yeah.
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 And this was all during COVID too.
Wow. So like crazy things happening, crazy time in the whole world, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy, man. Well, that's a very interesting story, guys.
Yeah.
You know, that's I'm shocked. I didn't expect all these things.
Yeah,
but-
there's so many things that we could go into
Yeah.
as
Oh
well.
yeah, we
like
would
that,
we would
that's
need like
not
more
even,
episodes.
Well,
for
That's
Yeah.
not even the first
Yeah.
year of us being
I
together.
know it's just the beginning.
Yeah,
but
that
that's,
was
you know,
like the
that's-
first 6 months.
That's what I like about podcasts, you know, because you get to kind of listen to the background of people, and you know, like I would never imagine, you know, that you guys
Right.
went through all these. Well,
Yeah.
I've seen you in the group, and I would never think anything. It really,
Yeah. Well,
You-
us
you know?
bring, like
Yeah.
I said earlier, us bringing stuff up like this to people who don't know us very well,
Yeah.
you know, we get the exact same reaction. They're like, "Oh, I would have never guessed. Like, you guys are so awesome.
Yeah.
You're so outgoing. You're so
Yeah.
positive about life." Well, yeah, because we went through
We went
a
through
ton
it.
of crap, you know, to get where
Exactly.
we are today. And like,
Yeah.
you know, just to think that God's not done with us yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That there was a reason why we went through all this stuff. Yeah, we could. Some of it could have been easily prevented.
Yeah.
But in order for us to be here, to know the things that we know, to have the wisdom that we have, and you know, just to have a you know, an attitude of gratitude and like just a better outlook on life. If we hadn't have gone through that, our mindsets right now would not be the same.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
they say like the happiest people in the world, they are like the ones that go through the most pain.
Absolutely.
Like,
You
know?
could say that, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
it's-
mean, for each person, it's definitely different. But
Yeah.
like, I definitely, looking back at everything that I did go through, my mindset was, "Oh, I'm a victim. Like this happened." Even though I know I did it to myself, I still feel like I
Blamed
should
everybody
be
else.
victimized in some sort of way.
Got it.
I didn't take responsibility for my actions, and that's what ultimately caused my,
Mm.
you know, my poor, my
Decisions.
poverty mindset, my poor decisions. You know, me going through 5 jobs out of the Marine Corps. Like I was like, we both were not mentally stable
No.
enough to hold a job for more than a year outside of the Marine Corps. And, you know, we still had that like a dependency mindset. We still had I'm going to have to work super hard for the rest of my life because like just the, you know, the
I'm
mental
never going to
stress.
amount, like the things I'm going to do are not going to amount to what I think I should be, because there was an unworthiness, a shame, a guilt, all of the condemnation, all those things.
Yeah,
But it
most
really, I think God literally sent an angel to get us to church, because we never would have, like we were trying to get into church, but everything closed down. And so that really, we found church in November 2020, and our lives literally shifted so dramatically after that. And that's really where I believe the true testimony starts, is like, okay, yeah, there's all your junk that you've gone through, you've walked through, and that you can talk about to help people understand just how radical of a shift you can have in life, but don't dwell in the stuff that you've already come out of, because then God can't bring you to more stuff or out of more stuff that you're currently in, and he can't take you forward. And so we decided to jump really head first into God, like instantly. I think it was like the first night that we went back to church, we rededicated our lives to God. And I'm not saying that, oh guys, we stopped doing drugs that night. Absolutely not. We still were doing drugs. But
it's a process.
It was such
Yeah,
a process
It's
because
such a process.
we got in there, and January 2020 is when we decided to bring purity back into our or 2021 is when we decided to bring purity back into our relationship. So we were still living together, but we stopped having sex with each other. And a lot of people are like,
We
"Oh,
stopped sleeping in the same,
same
bed.
bed,
I
like,
slept on the couch.
couch.
We had a really comfy couch, so I was able.
yeah, he was
to
on the couch.
to
Like
do that.
we went to full roommate, like
Yeah,
boundaries. Like we were like living like brother and sister in that house. Like we made sure we're like, hey, we're doing this God thing. We need to make sure we do it right. And so that was in January. And then we started serving. I started serving in kids' church, and he went into ushering, and going through kids church was a really healing thing. But mind you, I was still like, we were still smoking dabs and doing weed. We didn't stop psychedelics until like February of 2021, just because we were with the wrong people still.
Yeah.
Because they were still in our circle. They were still providing us those things. And so when we're like, man, like, what's something that we could do like that wouldn't be quite so intense? So we're like, let's do dabs, let's do weed, because that's like legal here and we're not going to get thrown in jail. So let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, so we did that for a while, and then, you know, like, it's still...
December 2021 was when I made the decision. I'm like, I'm done. And so since then, we've been 100% sober.
Switch in mindset.
Yeah.
Switch in everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Yeah, you know, I love this. I love these kind of stories because you know, you get to hear like how people overcome stuff, how people can you can literally overcome anything.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's all about mindset. Is also if you believe in God, you know, also God helps a lot. I personally also pray all the time, and even unconsciously sometimes I'm just like, and I just start like doing, oh, God help me with these, you know.
Right.
It's just
second nature.
Yeah, it's a second nature. It becomes a second nature and stuff like that. But we've been talking for like 2 hours. Can you guys believe that?
It doesn't even feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it, right?
But that's good, because there's a lot to unpack, and there is so much wisdom that comes from like self-talking. Like when you're talking about these things, you learn how to talk about them in glorifying the right thing, which is God, and talking about your experiences that are going to help change lives.
Exactly.
Because if I stayed, like I could have gone 3 hours into a topic of like all the different things I see on drugs, right? Like that's a singular topic that you could talk about forever, for a long time because of the amount of stuff that we did. But
there's
no edification for God in that story.
It's only glorifying what we drugs can do,
right?
Versus
I think when you talk about the experiences, are important to be like, hey man, I saw some crazy stuff, and like if you don't believe in the spiritual, like let me tell you, I've seen it.
And you guys went through all like the consequences too, right?
100%.
Not just like yes, I got high and stuff, but you guys share all the consequences that you guys went through. Like,
well, here's the thing too, to come out of it, you know, we're still, you know, she's still dealing with, you know, some of the residual effects, which that goes away with time, but coming out of it with
pretty much unscathed.
Felony, no felony convictions, because when I was in the brig, the things I was convicted of, I had like 4 pages worth of charge sheets
that they were going to try to get him with.
You know, because initially what happened was they caught me in possession of ecstasy. LSD and ecstasy. So whenever I was being interrogated by the special agent, he was like, "Hey, we found this in your room. Can you explain this?" Blah blah blah.
I think maybe you should talk about where, you know, you're not getting the charges. Like,
well, that's what I'm getting to. So they found it. This was in December. So fast forward to April, whenever she has her psychotic episode, her overdose, I get immediately sent to the brig. Yeah. So I'm in the brig. This all was, you know, during the height, everything, you know, during COVID was ramping up. So, I was in solitary confinement for 2.5 weeks, almost 3. And then after I get out of solitary confinement, I go to a squad bay where there's a bunch of other Marines awaiting trial, pre-trial confinement. I go to my first hearing in front of a judge, and I see my attorney. He was also the same attorney that was helping me with the case of me pending legal actions before I got sent to the brig, before everything actually happened. So I knew him. I was like, okay, cool. He's like, here's how we're going to fight it. Like, we should be able to get you out of the brig because this is nonsense. I saw all the charges that were brought up against me, and not only were the charges of me being in possession of it, but me taking it because I admitted to it. I was, automatically guilty because I admitted to it. But there was also charges of me coercing a junior Marine into taking drugs, sexual assault.
Yeah, they were like
rape,
trying to get him for rape.
Other things that didn't happen, that they were trying to shed a very bad light on me to make me not only stay there, but to convict me of doing things or convict me of staying there longer. and, possibly even, convicting me of being a sex offender. And, you know, being a sex offender, that's a very life-changing thing that happens to anybody. Like, you're immediately late, you're immediately, you're immediately labeled an outcast. You can't get a job, like it really
crazy.
set something.
He was very close to being truly ruined. And it just kind of shows like our relationship. Like as soon as we started, it felt like there was like about a bunch of chaos that was happening outside of what our control was. And usually when people come together or you're on a path or you're doing things and things outside of your control and your circumstance start to come against you without you knowing why, there's probably a reason why you guys are supposed to be together, because you're pissing off the spiritual, excuse me. But
there was so much resistance to it. It wasn't funny.
And we didn't even know why at times until we came to church and we started getting prophesied over and prayed over, and there was all this breakthrough and healing and like physical healing and deliverance and growth spiritually in our relationship and our marriage, and really starting to figure out, man, we're a really powerful couple, and like we're both very prophetic and gifted in healing and discernment and deliverance and all these amazing gifts that we had we were so this close to like never actually being able to be used for the kingdom of God because of what our poor decisions were and because we were listening to the wrong voices. But so many people, like, we know we're going to be in ministry. We know we're going to be speaking life and teaching and preaching for young ages, all ages. Like, I mean, we're in the junior high ministry now, and God has shown,
it's so awesome.
It's so spectacular, and God has shown us so many different things that he's going to do with our lives for outside of just what we're going to do here in our own backyard. But he's like a very deliberate download was we're going to be in Brazil, and we're going to be helping sexual abuse victims that are gone through trafficking, that have gone through all of these different things, and bringing the word of God into those places where, and the funny thing is we now are living right next to one of our an au pair. She's from Brazil. She has family in Brazil, and God's been bringing more people that we know that are from Brazil. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is, we don't know how far in the future that's going to happen. Like Moses.
Why Brazil though?
Like, we don't know. And Joseph is for another 15 to 30 years, right? Until he fully came to be.
Well, and Moses didn't get to actually be in the promised land. He was only able to see it from far away.
Exactly, right? So you never know, like, okay, what is it that...
Yeah, that's crazy to think about, too, because whenever I read that, I didn't realize that at first.
Yeah.
And I was like, man.
Maybe it's not for your generation, right? Like, there's so many, like, I guess spell into all that, too. There's a whole different...
interpretations.
Yeah, obviously, we were, Chelsea and I, we were put together for a reason.
Yes.
We also knew that because of the things that we were going through and the experiences that we have, not only could we speak into the next generation, but we were being set apart in our families to be that generational chain breakers, the wealth creators, because, like growing up, I was in a very broken family situation. My mom had never married. She had 4 kids from 4 different men, never been married to any of them. Except for my little brothers or my little sister, her dad, my stepdad. But they had only been married for, a certain amount of time. Just like financially, they weren't able to depend, or we weren't able to depend upon them because, decisions they decided to make. My mom was really into gambling. And so, whenever you have a mom that likes to gamble and a dad that makes a lot of money, couldn't really hold on to a paycheck. And, like a lot of this stuff, I realize it as an, as an adult, but once you're younger, mom's like, oh, we don't have any money. It's like, okay, well, what? Why? Yeah. It's like, you don't know.
Go make more money.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't.
What do you get?
A lot of things, through revelation of the Holy Spirit and, just like through, life experience, you get to learn more and more every day. And, for a certain amount of time, I blamed my parents. I blamed my mom specifically because she wanted the attention of men more than she wanted to take care of her own children for the longest time. And that really put a toll on my mental because about a week before I turned 11, I was put in legal guardianship of my aunt and uncle. So I was, legally adopted by them. They took care of me from 11 on to 18 before I went into the Marine Corps. For a long time, I held a lot of resentment and unforgiveness towards my mom, because she liked men more than she liked her children, and there came a time where I was like, maybe I shouldn't harbor all these feelings. And yeah, all my feelings were totally valid. But once I rediscovered, because, my aunt and uncle were very Christian people. They were very strict, but they were also very loving. They wanted to protect me from, the influences of the outside world. But, once I got out on my own, that was
The rebellious spirit.
The rebellion that I let inside of me, and, the curiosity, it all came out. So that's how I started getting into drugs. I was like, on to the next adrenaline rush, on to the next high, the instant gratification that I wanted to feel, to make me feel loved, feel honored, because
Feel the hole,
I wanted to fill that hole, that that empty void, because like, I never really had parents who like had my mom fill that that I was,
So
I guess,
seeking it outside
unknowingly expect. And so that's how I got my fill. But whenever I whenever I came down off of those drugs, whenever after I did all that stuff, it never satisfied me. So once I, rededicated my life back to God, I forgave my mom of a lot of the unforgiveness. I gave all my resentment, all my stress, all my negative thoughts and feelings towards my mom and other situations. Like, all of that stuff started to, really change me. And I really feel like the generational poverty that was on my family, like, finally broke off of me. And that's whenever because I had always heard, people prophesying, you're going to be a wealth creator in your family. Like, you're not going to be the same as your mom and dad were. You're not your mom and your dad. You're not your father. You're going to actually be there for your children. Cause I don't personally know my biological father, and I still don't. I know his name. I met him a couple times, but, and whenever that reunion happens, it'll happen. And I'm not worried about it. I know God's got it. I know it's in his hands. So I'm not uncomforted at the fact that I don't know him. Whenever that time comes, it'll come. But yeah, I had a really broken, like, I guess you could say, a really broken view on fatherhood, and, how a mother should be. And, basically I just told myself, I'm not going to be like my dad. Whatever it takes, I'm not going to be like. So yeah, and, just the generational poverty was a big thing, because it actually happened this time around for Emerge. After I got back from Emerge, I did a breakthrough offer. The first time I had ever did anything like that, I got a number, which I feel was from God, from the Holy Spirit, saying you need to give X amount of dollars for a breakthrough offer. I try to do it at Emerge, but obviously there's no service. They try to do the whole Wi-Fi thing, didn't work out. I really wish I could do this right now. Then Sunday rolls around. Pastor Rex Crane was speaking, was preaching at San Marcos. I think it was Dr. Matt?
Probably, yeah. He was on stage. He was talking for the
Dr.
tithe
Matt was
message.
doing the tithe message, and I immediately remembered. I was like, oh, I almost forgot. I need to do this breakthrough. So I get on the app and I give the amount. And as soon as I hit the send button,
the power of God,
the Holy Spirit just washed over me, and I just felt an instant release.
I was sitting right next to him, and I felt it, like both of us.
Yeah, it was the craziest thing I've ever experienced, and I knew it. I knew it was God, and I knew it was something broken off of me, and I knew that it was generational poverty. And it just like
it was just a whole
it was not just like it wasn't just a mental release. It just wasn't a physical release. It was an emotional release. I broke down.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't know this thing was on. And I just, just that one simple, step of obedience, like, it totally opened it up, and I broke it off.
That's
in it.
ultimately what boils down is faith and obedience. That's what
Yeah.
God calls us to, and in the world and in everything. And I think with our faith and obedience, that's what's brought us to where we are now, because we understood discipline and kind of the black and white of life of, hey, if I do this thing, it's probably not going to end well, because last time I tried doing something on my own, it didn't end well. And you know what I mean?
It usually never does.
Never does.
Yeah.
And so once we really stepped in, God opened up so many doors, relationally, spiritually, financially. Like when you seek God's kingdom, all these things will be added to you. That's a real thing. And God opened up He wanted me to apply for the internship at our church. And I was like, me, I'm never do that. There's no way I can afford that. Like, there's no way I'm going to do that. And then a couple months go by, I say, you need to apply still. And I'm like, I'm not applying. And then one of my gals, she was praying over me. She's like, God wanted me to ask you about the internship. And I'm like, okay, God, you're talking through all these people right now. Now I have to do it. Dylan, yeah. She's a great gal. Love her.
Great.
So I applied, got accepted, and then like a week later, I go to this lady, wonderful named Linda. She's an awesome woman of God, and she actually, when she heard that I got accepted, she's like, I would love to sponsor you for your intern. So God made the way. He's like, I'm going to call you to these places. I'm going to provide. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to go somewhere and not provide for you. So my internship was 100% sponsored. So I go through that whole year of internship, see the good, bad, and the ugly in life and in church. And when I say 2022 was the roughest year of our lives, it was worse than the military. just from all the circumstantial stuff that was happening. We moved 4 times, went through about 3 different jobs, and all these things, but God showed up in so many ways through all of the mess and the chaos that sometimes you have to go through such a level. God will sometimes send storms to see how much you trust him.
You got to go through the storm.
Got to do it.
It was definitely a test.
Definitely a test. That whole year was
a
test. And it was great because God was, I was saying, am I going to do a second year of internship or am I going to do Pathfinders? I don't know which. I don't know which one's going to happen. And so then I get hired at Go Be Rewarded and in September of last year. And Aaron, because he was so gracious, he worked with my internship schedule because I didn't graduate until January 2023 for internship.
Who's Aaron? Is the owner?
He's the owner and CEO, Aaron Gobitis. And so great dude, great family, great kids and wife. And so he was working with my internship schedule. And I start working with him. It's not even a month in. And he's like, hey, what if you applied for Pathfinders? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if you've ever thought about it. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really own a business. I don't really know any of that. I don't have the money. I just went through the whole year of internship, And he sends me this through text. He's like, well, if you apply, I'll sponsor you. This is literally through a text message. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? So I call him immediately. I'm like, babe, you're not even going to believe this. He's like, what? I'm like, Aaron wants to sponsor me through Pathfinders. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's insane. And I'm like, whoa, don't jump the gun because I haven't even gotten accepted yet. But let me just apply. So I applied, went through the whole interview process, and then I got accepted.
Wow.
And I literally graduated internship January 8th. And I started Pathfinders January 10th.
Nice.
Of 2023.
Yeah.
Right into it. And Aaron has sponsored me the whole time. And I'm actually graduating next week, or the June 6th. And it's totally transformed my life of what it means to be a generational chain breaker in all areas. Doesn't matter. Financial, that's money is fleeting.
Yeah.
But if you're not a generational chain breaker in depression, anxiety, fear, infirmity, all of these actual things and spirits that will keep you from actually ever having financial breakthrough. Because if you think you're unworthy and you're orphan spirit and you're depressed and anxious and fearful, you're never going to want to go out and be confident and go get a job and go actually, if you get your mind straight and you can't get that figured out, the money is never going to come.
Yeah.
Never.
Pathfinders, I haven't done Pathfinders, but I'm looking into getting the next one.
I absolutely recommend it.
Apply
shameless
for it.
plug. Shameless plug. Pathfinders.
Go check it. Yeah.
Apprenticeship. Go check it out.
It's so interesting because I think you have a limit, right, to apply.
Yeah. So
I think I missed the deadline.
But you can still do for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this Chris Aguilar.
Yeah.
I was talking to him just.
Oh, I bet you he could get your.
And he was like, "Oh, I can get you in."
Oh yeah, he could still get you in.
And I was like, "All right."
I think this is your sign from God.
And I need to text him about it. We've seen each other a lot. I think something's gonna happen there because he's been showing up in
your life a lot.
In my life a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. So lately, and it's started with a friend. Her name's Stephanie. She's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's how I got to know him. And then I was like, oh, he goes to Awaken. Oh, good. And then started rolling on. So and I talked to him yesterday. And he's like, yeah, I still can get you in and stuff like
No,
that. So I was
100%. Like, I would just
Let's go.
submit the application, because at least then you're in their system, because
Yeah.
then they know, like, if you ever reapply,
Yeah.
then they're going to see that you've had multiple applications, that you're a persistent fighter, and that
Yeah.
like, even if like you don't get into A class right away, it's like they are going to see that you're not a quitter.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately what it is. Like, the application itself is a test. Like, if you're even
Yeah.
going to apply, that's the number one thing
Yeah.
to see if you have the confidence to even try, right? And then obviously they're going to see, like, okay, how committed are you to the kingdom, obviously, and then the culture of understanding, like, what is your purpose on earth? Are you here just to make money? Because if that's when they do that's what they do through the interview process, like, I'm going to go to Pathfinders to make money. That's absolutely not what it's about. Like, you're missing it. Like, actually, stay-at-home moms can do Pathfinders and be absolutely successful.
Yeah.
And ministry leaders can be absolutely successful by going through Pathfinders. It doesn't matter. They mean to train you in your personal sphere of influence. Another shameless plug, go read Convergence by Pastor Colin Higginbottom. It talks about being your authentic self in your authentic lane with your authentic tools, and running with your, like, the right people, all in partnership with God's power and God's will. And that's how you're able to catapult and slingshot into just exponential life happening.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm gonna do Pathfinders. Yeah,
100%.
Sure. Now I'm more excited.
Let's do it.
Well, guys, look, I'm
know,
I'm having such a great time talking to you
we should
guys,
probably
but
cut
I
it
do
off.
have to wrap it off.
That's
So
okay.
I had to
Totally
drive
fine.
to LA.
Right now?
Yeah.
Man, if I would have known that, I
Wow.
would have cut myself off 2
No,
hours ago.
it's all good. It's all
What
good.
is this?
It's all good. I had to drive to LA. It's one of my shout out to my friend Levi, Gian. Levi is another friend.
Wrong shout out.
There's
Whoops.
two best friends. So sometimes
it.
they name is similar. So he's actually my co-host, but he's in LA right now. His birthday. He's gonna move to Texas.
Happy birthday.
So it's kind of like the goodbye thing. So he's like,
Wow.
you gotta be there, you know. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm so sorry. What was
I
it,
had to
Levi?
drive 2 hours, bro. Like, can
I'm so
you do
sorry. I
it?
love you. We'll send you
Can
again.
you
Oh,
do it in
man.
San Diego? So I don't have to go that
Right?
far, right?
Anaheim, at least.
Anaheim,
Somewhere.
yeah, in the middle, you know. No, it's not good. No, guys. I'm having such a great time with you guys. Thank you for coming. I really enjoyed this conversation. You know, we didn't even talk about like business and
Oh,
that
but
much.
we can. But
Yeah,
we
we
can
can.
come on
We
again.
have to
Let's
make
Why
come
this
on.
don't you
a
have it
segment.
again? Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do a part two.
Yeah,
you
we'll
know?
do a part 2 on what business and everything.
Let's do a part 2, but you know what? It's all good because I like your guys' background. I really enjoy listening you guys, how you guys overcome all those difficulties that you went through. So it's very thank you for coming, guys. So just plug in yourselves here, look at the camera, and just like give your socials and anything. How can people
Yeah.
reach out to you guys? So so Chelsea does marketing. So how can they reach out to you so they can learn more about what you do?
So you guys can find me on Instagram. My handle personally is Chelsea123 Gray. So CHELSEY 123 GRAY. That's my Instagram handle. Then my Facebook is just my first name Chelsea, last name Gray, same spelling. And then for Go Be Rewarded, if you want to know like on the work side, you can shoot me an email. My first name is Chelsea, and then at goberewarded.com. And you can also, I'll just throw my phone number out here too. Y'all can like text me, call me. My cell is 760-525-9525. Easy number to remember, finally a Cali number. But you can call me, text me anytime. I am feel like I'm someone with a lot of stuff that I've gone through, but a lot of knowledge in a lot of other areas. I'm actually meeting with somebody on Monday to help her with her business plan right now.
There you go.
Because she is very new in what she's going to do. And you can't really start with digital marketing if you don't have any like actual personal PR of like just your personal social network without even going onto the digital space yet. So you got to know your people, you got to have your network groups, and you just got to be able to talk to people about who you are before you can share it globally or on the internet or something like that. So
what about you, man? Plug yourself in.
Yeah, well, I just have to say this is my first time doing anything like this. So
Same.
not only was it a pleasure being on this
Pleasure.
podcast with you, but it was, it's a new experience, and I'm excited for where it takes us, because this is what we, Chelsea and I both prayed about. and this is another prayer answered. And I feel like this is the next step towards us, advancing God's kingdom, letting people know our stories, and also instilling hope and just getting us out there. And I don't really have anything specific to leave anybody with, but if you want to get into contact with me, you can text me at 760-421-4819.
And what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is gray, gray.corey. That is spelled Kory, gray.corey. And if you're in the San Diego area and you're looking to get for any detailing, car wash, ceramic coatings, my buddy Eric and we specialize in that. And our company is called Still Driven Auto Detail. You can find us there if you're looking for anything like that. But yeah,
let's go. Well, guys, thank you for coming again. Let's do it again. All right, let's do part 2 for sure. And thank you guys for watching this episode of With the Boys podcast. I don't know you guys, that's the name of the podcast. I'll give you guys background on that.
Sounds great.
After we're done here. So, guys, you guys know what to do. Go to YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell so you guys can get notifications every time that we post a new episode. Also, go follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Yes, we are right there. Download the podcast and leave comments, down below so we can communicate with you and know exactly what topics you guys want to listen and what kind of guests you guys want me to bring on the next episode. All right, guys? So, you guys know what to do. Press follow.